You must be in Korea for many times before.
Actually, I was in Korea during the Asian financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the
In
moment
1998.
98.
98.
I was at the moment on the investment banking side. I was advising on asset restructuring of a big Korean conglomerate.
Conglomerate, I see.
And at that time it was bleak. It was difficult. It was a little bit sad environment. But I came back to Korea after I took over, the position of Deputy CEO and then CEO of Amundi North Asia and Amundi Hong Kong. I come here very often on a regular basis, and I'm so happy to discover a new soul, a new climate, digital age, dynamism, optimism. I'm so excited about coming to Seoul and doing business here.
If you have some chance to use the Seoul metro, bus, and those facilities, will be absolutely startled to find out the IT system of Korea. You can use just one card to use bus, metro, and all others, and they will also find the right way and the cheapest way to go there. Anyway, it's been a long time since the East Asian financial crisis. I also shared your experience. How do you evaluate the Korean structural reform at the time, at the end of last century?
Back to 1990s.
Yes. When you were involved in restructuring the Korea's big conglomerates.
I'm very happy to share the view with you, but probably there are some errors or mistakes in the comments, but I would like to share it with you directly. I think that the Korean government, the Korean industrial participants have been extremely strong in their fighting against the consequences of the Asian financial crisis. They have been showing determination and courage in that fight. And no wonder today we have seen a new Korea, a market that is buoyant, a country that is exporting its culture, as the chairman of FSC chairman said earlier. So I think that because of Koreans' determination and courage in facing the Asian financial crisis, today we have a very strong Korea. We have a very strong Korean conglomerates, Korean companies, institutions, and I'm so happy to see this new dynamism, and I'm impressed by what Korean people, Korean government, and the Korean companies had done back to these difficult times.
Thank you for your appraisal. At that time, I was an advisor to the chairman of the FSC. So I was somehow participated in the restructuring process. And it seems to me that at that time we did very decisive actions, and therefore we could essentially reborn the financial sector and the corporate sectors. Well, but in the Eurozone area, I couldn't see that kind of decisive actions fighting toward the crisis confronting them. Well, nowadays it seems to me that U.S. economy is reviving, and Europe, it took so long time for the European economies to revive again. How do you evaluate the policies closing the Atlantic Oceans?
It's true that Europe is not yet United States of Europe.
No.
European Union is, after all, a political union. And Euro was born out of this background. And within European Union, you have a number of countries which are still quite different from each other. And it's a strong achievement for Europe to grow, to develop with the single market and single currency. Now, they have to face historical legacies, because in order to have a viable currency, you need to have other things ready in support of the currency, such as fiscal union and also banking union. What we have seen is that Europe has never achieved so much within a so short period of time. So there are still headwinds and difficulties, but Europe is moving forward. Europe has seized this opportunity, has improved its internal coherence, throughout this period, under the pressure of reform and under the pressure of getting more integrated in fiscal policy, in banking union. So although it's not easy, because again, Europe is on a social welfare system that is very developed. Europe cannot rely on a growth rate that is typically the rate we see in emerging markets. But by rising up to the challenge, Europe has clearly moved toward a closer union.
Let's see. U.S. shows a sign of recovery after pumping up huge amount of liquidity into the system. Now, Japan, under the leadership of Abe, followed the example of the United States. But in Europe, as you know, Germany still strongly against using inflationary policy, which occurs to me a very brave question that Eurozone will survive or they will kick out Germany.
It's impossible to imagine a Europe without Germany.
Right.
I think this is the first point. The second point, Germany is fundamentally European.
That is right.
Pro-European.
That is right.
And Germany's economic development achievement would not have been possible without the tremendous opportunities offered, market opportunities offered by the European Union.
That's right.
Now in Europe, there is a political consensus emerging in favor of a more relaxed, maybe, austerity program. They believe that it's very important to have the growth in order to overcome the difficulties. Without growth, it would be very difficult to effectively implement the austerity program. So there is now a consensus within European Union that they should get the growth back. They have seen the limits of austerity program, because austerity would also create social discontent, political instability, what we have seen in Italy, for instance. So now the political elite, the governments within European Union, they all tend to think that it's very important to pursue the growth and also reduction of public debt. You cannot convincingly reduce the public debt without growth.
No.
Meaning that central bank, European Central Bank, and also the relevant financial authorities would probably assess different options in favor of igniting new growth in Europe.
Well, your remark reminded me too many questions. The first one is that, okay, since you are working in the asset management area, and we are witnessing lots of volatilities and also dynamics of global economy, and some countries' equity is rising rapidly. On the other hand, the other countries is sluggish. So some of your clients would like to allocate their assets across many countries and changing the weight rapidly. Is there any tendency of appetite of your clients to put more assets in growing countries outside of their home market, or it's the same as before? The first question is this, The global portfolio is changing rapidly or not?
Overall, you still have this home bias. Asian clients would prefer putting the bulk of their assets in Asian assets, in Asian theme. And European will do the same, Americans will do the same. So you do have this home bias that is still there. And now, investors across the group are more and more interested in emerging market debts and equities, because there is growth, stronger growth in emerging markets. And also, investors tend to allocate more and more to alternative investments. They kind of sacrifice a little bit liquidity in exchange for return, a bigger return, a higher return of the assets. So we do have, we do see an allocation that is increasingly in favor of emerging market assets, equities and bonds, and alternative assets, infrastructure, and private equity, real estates.
Could you name some countries that can be easily categorized as those emerging market which is most favored by your investors?
We have seen, for instance, a surge in the interest in ASEAN, for instance. And we have seen strong interest in Latin America. Yes. So mostly Latin America, Asia, especially ASEAN. And we have also seen a strong demonstration of interest appetite on Chinese assets, especially on bonds issued by Chinese corporates.
Before we go to China, let's talk a little bit about Japan. As we all know, after Mr. Abe took over the cabinet, the share price of Japan rose rapidly. At the same time, the yen has been depreciated a lot. So for the Japanese domestic investors, it's a good chance. But foreign investors who value Japanese stock in their own currency, the depreciation of their current Japanese yen and the rising potential of Japanese equity. So we have, as foreigners, there is some trade-off. So as an investor from outside, can you recommend Japanese equity? And how do you evaluate the current Mr. Abe's policy direction?
I'm not recommending specific countries or stocks, but I can understand the appetite and interest of the investors for Japanese stocks these days because of a new approach of the government, because of the stock market growing at a pace much faster than the pace at which the currency is depreciating. So after factoring in the depreciation of Japanese yen, investors can still reap a significant gain because we are talking about a return between 30 to 40% in the last 52 weeks.
That's right.
So it's a very tremendous, very strong return of Japanese equities. And I think this is a situation substantiated by some numbers. We do see very substantial inflow into Japanese equities. And now with the new government, with the new economic policy, which is a very strong contrast to the policy pursued, economic policy pursued in the past, there is clearly a certain degree of optimism about the growth after so many years of almost zero growth. And there is optimism, there is impetus, and now we need to see how Japanese corporates, how Japanese consumers would react to these new impetus, new policies over time. Obviously, there is need for a sustained participation, sustained interest or investment, and now there is a good. There seems to there seems to be positive elements in substantiation of a surge of optimism, but we need to have this sustained over time.
Okay, and about China. After the Xi Jinping's leadership, and it seems to me his plan and his policy direction was almost perfect. As Mr. Roche of the previous Morgan Stanley and currently in Yale University already figured out that the policy was well-founded. But some people outside of China are somewhat disappointed by somehow the sluggishness of the economy in China. And Xi Jinping may postpone its punch to the economy so far. Do you think the Mr. Xi Jinping see his own country's economy is still good, so that he doesn't need to stimulate a lot, or he has not many options to stimulate his economy? how do you evaluate the current policy and the current economy of China? Let's say, just imagine you sit in the chairs of Mr. Xi Jinping.
First of all, I really can't imagine sitting at his chair. But what I can say is that China is the second largest economy in the world.
That's right.
Growing at 7% on an annual basis. It's already a tremendous achievement. We can no longer expect China to grow at the rate we have seen in the past decades.
No.
It's gone. I think that
It's gone, yeah.
investors, outside observers, our neighbors should clearly tell themselves that that era is gone. We need to get ourselves used to a more moderate growth rate, but sustainable one. In order to achieve this, it's very important to rebalance the Chinese economy by putting the emphasis on the domestic consumption instead of continuing to use the traditional recipes of export and investment. Consumption down the road should remain the engine of the Chinese sustainable growth. And with the size of the population, with the young generation that are more prone to consumption, I'm sure this is achievable. And also, you know, China is a big market with 1.3 billion people. On the environmental front, we cannot afford, China cannot afford to continue at the breakneck pace we have seen in the past. So another new front, which is certainly very interesting for foreign investors, is the new wave of financial reform to come in China. When I say to ignite
financial reform.
Yes.
Okay.
As you know, we have heard from Madame Liu Hongyu of CPRC early in the morning, bigger access for foreign funds to the Chinese financial markets, and internationalization of Chinese renminbi, and probably by 2015, the Chinese renminbi, the currency, will become the second largest trade settlement currency in the world.
Pretty surely.
And then you have interest rate reform, which for the time being, the interest rate in China is still relatively regulated one. And now China's financial reform needs to move into this area of liberalization of interest rate. So with this new wave of reform, there will be more productivity ignited, there will be more efficiency unleashed, and you will have a financial service that is more developed, creating new jobs, producing new value added. So my feeling is that the Chinese leadership, the new government, is fully aware of the situation, and they have a very clear roadmap. I'm confident that they can steer successfully the rebalancing of Chinese economy.
Now the time is almost up. Come back to Korea. Since you have visited Korea many times, I'm sure that you have heard many things originated from Pyongyang. And nowadays they say lots of things. Do you feel something strange, something new nowadays, or you still feel as you used to feel before? North Korea.
Okay.
Pyongyang is the capital city of North Korea. They are saying lots of harsh things.
Mr. Choi, you and me, we sit relaxed.
Okay.
The market is calm, and obviously is not genuinely in the interest of any government to have a prolonged tension.
In other words, when you received the invitation from Korea, the North Korea didn't concern you when you scheduled this visit.
Business schedule as usual.
No.
We have the visits of the Chinese CBRC, the banking regulator, and we stick to this forum. And to be honest, I'm very relaxed.
Yeah.
I think that the international community, the investors, are also are watching what's happening carefully, but with a well prepared mindset, and we are more impressed by Koreans' achievement, Koreans' economic performance, by also what the Korean officials have said about their plan to, shield the waves of liquidities in nowadays markets. So I think I'm like you.
Okay. Mr. Jung, this is my last question. Unless he or she has other questions. You have a long experience here in Korea, and in order for you to increase your investment here in Korea, what is the most, what kind of news you would like to hear from the new government in order for you to facilitate your investment here? What's the thing that you would like to hear from our new government?
My feeling is that when there is a pro-growth economic policy, when there is a policy that is predictable. Yeah, when there is a vision set out that takes into consideration the competitiveness of the competition around the world. When we understand how Korea will face the challenges such as again the QE in Japan, which will have an impact on the Korean export. So how does the government set up a clear policy that is understood and appreciated by the market?
So pro-growth policy, they can provoke sustainable growth, and some actions, some policy agenda which can navigate the current economy despite of lots of turmoil caused by Japanese yen depreciation and others, that can be understood by the international community. Good. Yeah.
And the financial industry
as well
itself. As the government official said earlier, the Korean entertainment industry, the movie, the TV series,
and Psy.
Yes, and Psy. And it's a so nice representation of Koreans' creativity. I think that we would like to see a new wave of financial development echoing what's happening in the cultural sector.
New wave of financial development.
Because Asia, North Asia, let's say Asia is emerging as a very substantial economic bloc. Asia's contribution to the growth of the world's economy has exceeded 50%. As compared to this level of contribution, of level of interest of international community in Asian activities, the financial development remains still relatively
low,
behind. So there is a gap, and there is a room of opportunities for the key players in the market, China, Korea, actually to grow.
Good. Thank you. Do you have any other questions to raise?
Thank you. Suri, do you have Suri has been working with the group for many, many years, has witnessed the group's long-term approach and commitment to the market.
I've been working with Amundi for 13 years. So really, it's quite a good group. Long-term commitment.
I see.
Long-term vision. Slow and steady growth, sustainable growth.
When you see other overseas investors to Korea, I would say that until the end of this month, which is not many days left, North Korea won't change a lot, because only after the Korean-US military drill ends at the end of this month, only after that, they will say something else.
Mr. Choi, thank you very much.
So nice.